Alright guys, welcome back. So let's start in here doing what we want. So we want to start typing something in here, grab these values and then do something with them. Alright, so let's first of all convert in here on the top our function component, our app component to be with some React guidelines in here. So not React, Typescript. So we're going to do change this from a function declaration. We're going to change this to a arrow function. So let's do const app, and I'm going to explain what this is in a second. All right. So we're going to put in here a react.fc, and this is equals to this, like this, and we should be all right. Okay. So when you are creating a component with TypeScript, you need to tell it with this colon after to say, okay, this is going to be a React functional component. So when we are using TypeScript, so this is the part that we're going to start touching in TypeScript actually. So as you know that, for example, in JavaScript, when you create a variable, let's say age, if you create this variable and you assign it, for example, for 20 as a number, later on, you can just go and say age equals to 20. You can do this because JavaScript is not a language that is like strongly typed, it's actually weakly typed. So this means that you can create a variable. You don't need to specify what kind of data type do you have in here. And then later on, you can just change it with no problem. So this can introduce many problems in your project, especially when you are working in big companies, like with lots of users, lots of developers. So when you are creating a variable in with TypeScript, you have the ability to go in here and tell, okay, what this variable, what is the type of it? I can say that this is the type of a number, okay? So at the moment, we just have these kind of squiggly lines in here because it's saying that we never used it. If I would just do in here, for example, a console.log of age, okay, you see this is gone because we just use it. So I specified in here in this variable, when I created, that this value needs to be with a type of number. If I would go in here and put it as a string, okay, look, now it's giving me this error. Look, type number is not assignable to the type string, okay? So this could be one way that you could assign, for example, the type of this variable. Another way that you could do would be, for example, creating a type that you could use on multiple variables. So I'm going to call this, for example, type my number. So it doesn't really matter what's the name that you give it, could be anything. So we created a type, give it a name, and then we say, okay, what kind of type is this one that we want to create? This is a number. So when we have in here a number, this is like the keyword from JavaScript that is actually telling you, look, this type that you're going to pass to any variable needs to be with a type of number. Okay, so I could go in here, let's just get rid of this. Instead of writing down in here number, I could just go in here and say, look, this is my number. Because you know that this type up here that we created is actually a number. Okay, so you could do one way or the other. If you want, you could just do like this. Okay, so this should be enough for now for us to just like continue with the rest. So let me just get rid of this. So now that we have this input in here, let's start applying in here some onChanges events so we can grab the values that we have in here, and then we're going to store it in a state. So let's create that state in here first of all. Let's do a const. We're going to say users state, for example, and I'm going to say set users state. Okay, so this is going to be equals to use state, and I'm going to set this as an object for now. Okay, as usual, look, you are having this use state in here, so you need it to import it on the top. from React, and this is all good. What we want to have inside of these right now is we want to have a current user. Okay, so we want to have a current user, which is going to be the one that we're going to be typing down. So whenever we are typing down these values, we want to store this in our state, in this part in here. So up here we created our state. This is the name of our state. This is a function that we run whenever we want to update this state. And this is the value of our state. Okay, so I want to have the value of my state is an object with a key of current user. So this is going to be the current user that we are typing down at the moment. And then what's going to be the values of these this current user. So I want to have a name. So I'm just going to put this like this. So this is going to be an object. I want to have a name. For now, I'm just going to put it empty. Okay. Then I want to have what else? I want to have, for example, a job. And was there an age? Yeah, there was an age. So I'm going to put in here age and then job. Okay, just like this. So we created in here an object with a name, age, and job. But as we specified before, with TypeScript, whenever we are creating some sort of variables or objects and so on, you need to specify what kind of types you have in here. So because who is owning this object is actually our use state. After our use state in here, we can pass this in here some sort of, some people call it crocodile braces. So we could go in here and just pass, for example, we want that our use state to be an object, as you can see. And I want this object to have a current user key. Okay, and that current user is going to have a name that I want to be a string. Then we have an age that I want to be a string. Let's say, for example, we're going to change this after, don't worry, because we set it as a number in there. And then we got a job that is a string as well. Okay, so we pass down that inside of this user state, we know that we're going to have, look, if you hover it, you're going to have an object with a current user, with a name that is a string, age that is a string, and a job that is a string. Okay, so we have everything declared. But as you can see in here, this type that we put inside, it doesn't look that great because it's taking a lot of space. So whenever we want to actually create some sort of types for this kind of objects that they have many keys, we could create something that we called an interface. So I'm going to create this interface up here. So to create an interface, so an interface is going to be just a way for us to create like multiple types for an object. So I'm going to put in here interface, and I'm going to call it, for example, user int, which is just short for interface. And now I want this to be what? This is going to be an object. As you can see, we got the opening and closing of the object. And I'm going to put in here that this is going to be a name. Okay, it's going to be a name. This is going to be a string. Same thing for the age. Needs to be a string. And then I'm going to put the job, which is going to be a string. Okay, so we created our interface. Remember that we just use an interface whenever we are trying to pass these kind of types to an object like this one. Okay, so now inside of my use state, I want that my current user, which is this object that we have in here, I want this current user to be with a type of that interface that we just created. So now I don't need to specify all of this. We created the interface and there it is. Look, we got our interface in there. So if you still hover this, we have now that our user state is an object with a key of current user, and this current user in here is with a type of user int. The user int is this one. So we are all good for now. Okay, so now that we got this, the next thing that I want to do now is actually start putting some sort of on change values in here in our inputs. So let's go in here on change. So whenever I change anything, what do I want to do? I want to call a function called, for example, on change handler. Call it anything that you want. This is just a function that we will run whenever we are typing down something on our input. So I'm going to copy this same function on all my inputs like that. All right, so now it's giving us an error in our browser because we still didn't create this function. So let's do that. So I'm going to do in here const on change handler. So this is going to be a function like this. So what is this function going to do? Let's just check. First of all, I just want to do some stuff inside of this function, and I don't want to return nothing from this function. So with TypeScript, you can tell that by after your parentheses that you got in here, you can go and just do in here a void, just like this. Look, you can do after the parentheses, you do this colon and you put void. So this means that this function is going to do something, but is never going to return something. You know, like when you are trying to return something like a number or whatever, this function is not going to return anything. It's just going to do some job and then stop and not return nothing. So we put it in here, void. If for some reason you are doing this function that is doing something like, for example, returning a name, let's say return hello, let's say, you need to specify, okay, this function is going to return a string if you would do something like that. Okay, so let's just get rid of this because I'm not going to return anything. Now, inside of a function, you always need to specify what kind of changes or what kind of parameters you're going to put in here. Let's say you would put a name in here. So this would be a parameter. You need to specify, okay, this parameter that you have in here is what type. Let's say you pass another one. It would be an age. This one would be, for example, a number. I don't know. So you need to specify inside all the types of these parameters that you put inside. But this is not what we want right now. We want that whenever we are doing in here an onChange event, we're going to run this function. And the only thing that I want to grab from here is going to be the event. So, you know, when you are typing something, there is an event. So you can actually grab, for example, the event, .target, .value. So we can grab the values from these inputs. So we're just going to put in here a E. We could put any name that we want because that's how you can grab the events in here. You could write event or you could just have E. It's really up to you. But we need to specify this event is what kind of event. This event in React is with a type of React. So this is something that you probably just have to do some quick Google search if you don't know about that. So we're going to put in here React change event, okay? And so this is the event that we are doing, react.change event. And then we need to specify, okay, in what element are we doing this? This is going to be on this element, which is HTML. And then we have input element. Okay, so now that we got this, we should be able to just go in here, for example, if we are doing something, like imagine event.prevent default. Look, is even coming up if we would want to do something. For now, I just want to do a console.log of the event dot. Look, when I put the dot, is even coming up to me everything that we can do with that. Okay, so the event has the bubbles, cancelable, is trusted, and so on. I want to grab this one, the dot target. If I want to put another dot, look, now I can get many other things. The thing that I want to grab is the value. It should be most likely down here on the V. That's it. Okay, so when we are doing some changes on these inputs, we're going to have access to the event, which we already specified the type. And because we specified the type of this event, we can get access to all these values without having to look for them. Okay, so let's just check if this is working. Let's open the console. Let's go in here. Let's do a console. Let me clear these. I'm just going to put, for example, TELMO. And as you can see, every time that we are typing something is coming up like whatever you type in there, which is great. Okay, so this is all good. Now let's just save these values now before we finish this video. It's getting a bit long. Let's just save this on the state. So let's do that. To update our state, we need to run this function called setUserState. So let's do that. I'm going to do setUserState. So this needs to be what? Needs to be the current user, because that's the only thing that we got in there at the moment. We got in here a current user. And inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be only updating each one of these values like individually. So for example, if I'm just typing down the name, I'm only updating this one. So I don't, if I just put in here, for example, name and then some value, I'm going to lose all the other properties. So I need to use the rest operator, which is the dot dot dot, and then I'm going to do user state. So this is my state. I want to go inside of the dot current user, and I'm going to grab everything that is inside of there, and then, okay, I'm going to update the new value. Now, what's this new value that I'm going to be updating? I'm going to put in here this kind of array, because what I'm going to do in here, which I'm going to explain in a second, is e.target.value. No, this is e.target.name. So basically, when you want to specify a key of an object dynamically like this, without having to put, for example, name, age, job, or whatever, we are saying that, look, if I'm typing down this input, this is the one where I'm doing my onChange. I'm running my onChange handler whenever we are typing on it, okay? So this, we have access to the event. And because we have access to the event, I can say, okay, whenever I'm going to update this, I'm updating the state, the current user, and in here, I'm going to grab e.target.name. So the event.target.name is going to be this value that we have in here, name. So I know that on my state up here, I'm going to update this key in here, e.target.name. So this is how you can grab the keys dynamically. So now in here, I'm just going to do e.target.value. Okay. So I'm going to put in this key that we have in here, the value that you have in that input that you are just putting in. Okay. So this should be fine in here. Now, I think we should be all good now. We should be all good now. Let's just, after we do this, let's just do this, and let's just do a console.log of this, of the user state, just to make sure that this is working. Console.log of, I'm going to remove this one up here so it doesn't conflict. User state dot current user. Okay, let's try it. Just refresh. I'm going to put TELMO. And now, okay, there's something missing in here. What we are missing, now I remember, what we are missing is that in our input, as you can see, we set up the value of the input to be all the time like empty. That's why it's like resetting all the time. We want this value that you have in here to be all the time the same value that we have up here on the state. So I'm going to put for this value of the first input, I want to be whatever is inside of the user state, dot current user, as you can see, dot name. You see, you have all these things coming up to you because of TypeScript. So let's just copy this. We're going to do the same thing in here now for the age, whatever is on the state, and then the same thing down here for the job. Okay, let's just refresh this. Let's just go in here. I'm going to put TELMO. And as you can see, after I type down everything, it's coming in here on the console that my state is having age nothing, job nothing, name Telmo. If I'm going to put in here now, for example, 35, as you can see, we got now age 35, name Telmo, and let's put a job. Where is it? So we're going to put, for example, a software developer, and there it is. Now we are grabbing all these values that we want and saving them on the state. All right, so that's it for this video. It's getting a bit too long, and then on the next one, we can actually, grab these values that we have in here and just add them in here on the page. All right, so I'll see you in the next one.